Hello, dear viewer. This is Almighty Z, and welcome to a review of Argylle, the newest spy comedy by Matthew Vaughn with quite a big cast. So, how would I describe this movie? Imagine the story's like a pretzel, made with dough and has a few twists to complete it. But imagine the baker keeps creating twists in the pretzel and ends up creating a weird, inedible knot of dough. That's Argylle. To summarize, this movie tries to be incredibly clever with all its plot twists, but there's simply too much. The story becomes incoherent and will get much worse on repeated viewings. And because of all the twists, there is little to no room for character development. One big twist basically resets the only development one character was having. And because the others are either one note or confusing, there's not a lot for the star-studded cast to work from. Some, like Sam Rockwell, really try to give it their all, but the bad character writing holds them back. Despite basic logic, the main antagonist organization somehow exists in this world, and kindergartners would be better decision makers than the ones in charge. All done by a director who has been trying to recapture the lightning in a bottle he got from Kingsman. This wasn't a completely miserable experience for me, but you shouldn't waste your time with this in a movie theater. Now, this won't be an extreme detailed breakdown of the movie, but I will now talk more about the story itself and what's wrong with it. So after this point, spoilers will be revealed.
You have been warned.
We begin with Ellie Conway reading her latest novel about international spy, Argylle, to fans at a bookstore. Afterwards, one fan asks her out on a date and she politely declines to finish her next book instead. She returns to her lake house to complete her last chapter with her cat, Alfie, by her side. After her mother reads her manuscript, she thinks the ending is a cop-out and invites her home to discuss it, and also wonders when she'll find a boyfriend. So far, this is serviceable. We can see Ellie is an introverted woman who wants to find a connection, but isn't sure she can. While on a train home with her cat, a drifter named Aiden sits next to Ellie. He tells her he's a big fan of her books, but says people who work in espionage don't look like Argylle. And he knows because he works in espionage. No, he's not crazy, this is his style. He warns Ellie some people are about to attack her, and she should trust him. Lo and behold, it happens, and Aiden fends them off. They slowly attack, one at a time, and Ellie keeps seeing Argylle when Aiden is fighting. But the two escape via a parachute off a bridge. Ellie passes out and wakes up at a safe house. Aiden shaves and tells her latest novel has predicted real events. A spy went rogue and hired a hacker to obtain a master key. An entire list of agents and leaders in a secret spy organization called the Division. Aiden was said spy. But once the hacker did his job, something happened to him and the master key is now hidden. So both the Division and Aiden want Ellie to continue to write to find out where it is.
What a twist!
So, on a first viewing, this may come across as a movie version of the scene from South Park where the Pentagon asks Hollywood filmmakers advice on how to handle terrorists. But there's something more here. The scene previously described wasn't established in the opening. Instead, it showed Argylle hunting a contact, his female agent friend dies, and finds out his director double-crossed him. And because we aren't familiar with the details of Ellie's story, this big exposition dump feels jarring. Not the end of the world, but it's a missed opportunity. Oh, and I almost forgot, the cat Alfie is still in the safe house and will keep being a part of this movie. So they go to England based on how Ellie would continue the story, and find more clues to the master key in an empty apartment. The Division has been spying on them and send a few teams to take them down. Ellie and Aiden hide under the floorboards, but Ellie's cat gives away their position. Luckily, Aiden kills all the agents no problem. Despite how Ellie nearly tosses a grenade at him and can't stomp down on an agent to ensure he won't get back up. Remember that. The two hide in a hotel room, but Aiden calls someone in the bathroom without closing the door, and Ellie overhears him saying he wants to put a bullet in her head. Don't worry, we're about to get even more stupid. Ellie calls her mom out of desperation, and she and her father fly to England immediately. Ellie goes to their hotel room, and Aiden is just fine with this apparently. We never see how she escaped the site. But anyway, Ellie sees her mom and her father, who is also the Division's director.
What a twist!
Suddenly, Aiden enters the room, says they work for the Division, knocks out the director, and shoots Ellie's mom. Shocked and scared, Ellie leaves with him, but most importantly, leaves her cat behind too. They drive away, and as Ellie falls asleep to calm down, she suddenly wakes up at a winery in France. Aiden takes Ellie to the owner, former CIA director Alfred Solomon. Together they explain what's really going on. Ellie is not her real name, nor is her personality authentic. Her real name is Rachel Kyle, or R. Kyle for short, She was a secret agent like Aiden and not only worked with him consistently on missions, but they were also lovers. She worked with Aiden on getting the Master Key but got amnesia during the exchange and was captured by the Division. The director and Dr. Ruth decided to pose as her mother and father to Rachel to plant fake memories of her childhood and personality to mold her into Ellie, which she's been for 5 years. Once that was complete, they encouraged her to write to reveal more of her history so they could eventually find the Master Key. So the Argylle that Rachel keeps seeing and her books are a way of her subconscious trying to break through into who she really is.
Everybody got that?
So, where to begin? Well, I could go into how amnesia is a huge cliche that this entire story relies on, but let's start with the Division's plan. I can understand taking the opportunity to weaken your opponent, but to let her write out her past and to hope she remembers the Master Key's location is very fluky. There's a chance she may not be able to remember anything in her new personality, or give accurate details in her stories. If either scenario happens, you never find the Master Key, and considering this is a super evil spy organization, you'd think they'd have some other methods of extracting information. Especially because you've been waiting on this for 5 years. If they wanted to make sure Rachel would never get taken away, they could have convinced her she was disabled and needed their care forever. She would live in their house, which they apparently have in Chicago to keep up the Mom and Dad Act, or even fake a house somewhere in the Division's headquarters. That way, Rachel would always be under constant surveillance from the director while she writes. Or maybe they could have created their own version of The Truman Show, where Ellie is acting out her life in a completely controlled setting. Division agents would be around her in secret the entire time. Instead, neither happened and she's able to escape. And if they did either option, their entire goal of finding her would be non-existent. They would eventually find the key and win. Also, Aiden doesn't make sure the 2 highest ranking members of the Division are dead in the hotel room. Yesterday he was getting on Ellie for not being firm enough for ensuring people are dead, but why in the hell would he not do the same? He's supposed to be a great spy, yet he's making mistakes like this? Because guess what? Later in the movie, both are fine. Dr. Ruth had on a bulletproof vest, but if you checked her pulse after shooting her, you could have ensured the job was done. Making one of our protagonists go absolutely brain dead in this moment is such a stupid way to keep our antagonists alive. Also, despite the resources the Division has, they can't seem to find or stop one rogue agent and a former CIA director. This is their only adversary in this film. The agent could be an idiot, and the director apparently spends all his time watching basketball and the stock market. How have you not killed them yet? And we never see or hear what exactly is so evil about the Division, making them a completely one-note villain. But arguably the biggest problem out of all this revolves around character. We are halfway through this movie, and we still don't know who Rachel Kyle is. Everything we've been shown about her so far is a lie. Now she's a completely different person, and we, the audience, are told what she's like instead of being shown. It's not until the 3rd act we begin to see her in the field as an agent, but by this point it's too late for audiences to care. This is such a bad way to write your main character. You can't root for a protagonist whose personality will change purely for the sake of a clever twist. And given how much of the marketing for this movie revolved around Henry Cavill's Argylle, I wouldn't blame you if you thought this movie was a bait and switch. Returning to the story, Rachel doesn't believe them initially, but Aiden tries to punch her, and her agent training suddenly kicks in, where she can take him down. Hey, why didn't your training kick in back at the apartment? Based on what we're shown, I'm pretty sure trying to stomp on an enemy's head would have reignited your agent training. But now the story demands she's a badass now, so shut up, don't think about it. Rachel and Aiden go to Arabia to find the master of all secrets who has the Master Key. At her palace, they wait for her to see Rachel, and Aiden keeps trying to get Rachel to remember who she is through dancing. The pacing in this movie is awful, by the way. So many big moments of dense exposition either for the story or trying to salvage character. The last major action scene we had was back at the apartment. Rachel is able to retrieve the key, but before they can escape, Dr. Ruth and the Division arrive to capture them and drug them. Maybe it would have been a good idea to make sure she was dead, huh? When they wake up, the director reveals that Rachel was really a double agent. Someone who only partially defected.
What a twist!
But after hearing this resonates with Rachel for some reason. She never believes it's a lie, and she shoots Aiden in the chest to show she's loyal. She goes to a computer to show them Solomon's location, but double-crosses them and sends him the Master Key. Or tries to, because she started this in front of Ruth and the director. She's able to fight her way out and finds Aiden in the armory. He's okay because Rachel shot him in a place in the heart that is perfectly wide enough for a bullet to go through without causing any heart damage. What the fuck? What insane amount of bullshit are you trying to feed me, movie? Not only does this place not fucking exist in the heart, but Rachel shot him in the exact area after not firing a gun in several years. My lord, if these two got lottery tickets, they would win immediately with the luck they have. The two shoot their way through the division in a big action scene that's not that impressive or fun, because they should have died several times during it. So what separates this from, say, Eggsy's fight against Valentine's Men in Kingsman is he's equipped with spy tech that, while ludicrous, is believable enough from a high-tech spy organization, like a bulletproof suit. These two don't have any of that. They have basic military equipment instead. Anyway, they fight to a place they can send the master key to Solomon, but the director holds him at gunpoint saying only he can authorize it with a retinal scan. But then, Alfie the cat comes out of nowhere to scratch his eyes out. I wish I was hallucinating, but I was completely sober during this movie. Sadly. So they try on the main deck of the Division's headquarters, which is a giant ship in the ocean. They begin to upload from a different computer that doesn't need retinal scans, lucky them, but Dr. Ruth appears with a hypnotic device that's able to capture Rachel and gets her to fight Aiden in a trance. You had this device the entire time? Why in the world are you only using it now? Good God, you and everyone in this evil spy organization is a dunce. But during their fight, an agent from a previous mission who Rachel and Aiden thought was dead arrives to kill Dr. Ruth in a Deus Ex Machina. Don't worry, I'm wrapping this turd up. Rachel returns to writing her Argylle series and speaks to another group of fans, but now with Aiden by her side. The one arc she sort of had was never an issue in the end. When she was Ellie, she wasn't sure she could find love, but she's really Rachel who already had someone. Again, such horrible character progression. But during her fan event, a man stands up, played by Henry Cavill, who reveals himself to be Argylle in real life.
What a twist!
And the mid-credit scene reveals he's a Kingsman agent. I don't know how this connects to the Kingsman universe, and I don't care to. This is yet another disappointing film from Matthew Vaughn, who is becoming the definition of style over substance. His biggest success came from bucking the tropes and providing solid characters and a stylistic, action-packed adventure. Now he's failing in all three aspects. If you're looking for a fun spy movie, just watch Kingsman. In fact, I'll do the same right now to forget this stupid film. Anywho, thank you all for watching. Expect more videos from me, Almighty Z, discussing more media from A to Z. So long.